Tokyo Revengers Season 2 was pretty overlooked in my opinion. It didn't come out at a good time, having to compete with the return of Bleach, My Hero's highly anticipated season, etc. It also has a short season in the Black Dragons arc, and doesn't have a lot of substance compared to Season 1. As it comes to an end, we see that Tokyo Revengers has its flaws and does drop itself to a lower tier, closer to mid, in my opinion. But the Tenjiku arc is top tier, trust. But I personally do enjoy the anime and manga for what it's worth, and it isn't bad, but seems too short for the wide array of themes that it tries to tackle. Growing up in a neighborhood where the kids in this show resemble a lot of what I saw, expect lots more of characters from this show to be analyzed. In Season 2, we see Tomon vs. the Black Dragons. Family and brotherhood is a theme brought to the forefront of this arc, with difficult sibling relationships and new characters being brought to the forefront representing proper mentorship and accountability. Characters like Takashi Mitsuya and Taiju Shiba can be compared and contrasted on a multitude of levels, and when analyzed, are more similar than different. Not only are we introduced to more characters, we expand upon more of the leaders within Tomon. With the holiday of Christmas, Mikey is reminded of his older brother Shinchiro and his late friend Baji. Keeping traditions alive is a way to help cope with departed loved ones and to keep their memory alive. This is a theme we will see play into the Shiba family, the paramount group of this season. But as you guys may know by now, we make justifications for the bad guy, and in the future, the anti-heroes. Compared to last season, Mikey is showing that he is coping better with his losses. In the present, Kazutora has relieved himself of his dissociations and is ready to fight the good fight. Now we are introduced to a new enemy, Taiju Shiba. Taiju is yet another representation of abuse, neglect, manipulation, and psychological conditioning. The eldest brother of the Shiba family, forced into a superior role within his family dynamic. With the introduction of him, we also dive deeper into Tomon's second division and its captain, Takashi Mitsuya, and vice captain, Taiju's younger brother, Hakai. To analyze Taiju, we must approach from the angle of his role within his family. As the oldest sibling, the shift of responsibilities multiply tenfold when parents are out of the picture. Where a mother and father can provide support, both financially and emotionally, they also serve as another opinion to help children develop perspective in a healthy and constructive environment. For the Shiba family, after their mother passes away, each remaining family member coped differently. You can notice here that the father began working, possibly to outwork his brain's processing of grief and loss. Regardless, he's barely home. Hakai and Yuzuha are then left with their oldest brother to provide support, as well as having him as a prominent figure in their lives. Regardless of his behaviors, Taiju is subconsciously looked at by them as the initial model for life's comings. Taiju must now meet the multitude of expectations, substituting in his mother's void, fulfilling fatherly duties, and continuing his basic responsibilities as an oldest sibling. Taiju uses what advantages he has. Being a naturally larger child, yes, he is a child, and Tokyo Revengers gets worse. Just wait for Toronto South. He uses his advantage to make money on the side. Assuming this is to provide support, he fills that expectation. So we see that the Shiba family is far from perfect, but money seems like no issue. A problem that does stem from his large figure and fighting prowess is that it bleeds into how he raises his younger siblings, being short-tempered and resorting to physical beatings as punishments for the smallest of inconveniences. These harsh reactions now taint the growth of Hakai and Yuzuha. This domino effect of loss and lack of proper guidance finally results in the self-fulfilling behaviors of Taiju. With nobody around to check him, why would he change? Aside from the expectations of the role of being the eldest, the pressures of getting to that point can also have its effects. Taiju has a system in place for when his siblings get out of line. For some time, they've worked to an effect. Every time the system works, he feels a sense of accomplishment for his duties. Regardless of the system being proper or not, the results are all that matters. Failing those duties would result in a failure in his family name and himself, something that Taiju is not used to nor is he willing to accept. The pressures of fulfilling one's role is something we can all relate to. The struggles we have and how we grow into those roles is an individual journey from person to person. We all have an end goal, expectations set on us, and those that look to us for answers. It would be outright incorrect if I told you what works for me would work for you. And the same would be true if told vice versa. Director of Fight Club, Alien 3 and 7, a personal favorite director of mine, David Fincher once said in an interview, "Take all of the responsibility because you're gonna get all the blame." The director of a film is typically the scapegoat for a film's shortcomings. Unbeknownst to the average viewer, they wouldn't know that there are specific roles for editing, writing, and the thousands of other roles that should be the blame for their specific flaws. But a director takes those criticisms because they're the face of the operation, as a head coach is blamed for play calling even though they have an offensive and defensive coordinator. The head or face of an operation takes all of the blame for someone else's mistakes, the mistakes of the team under them. This overbearing weight of being the head of the family, Taiju internalizes these pressures. Without releasing them in a therapeutic sense, he rationalizes beating his siblings because he sees sudden responses, the correct responses. Rationalizing means to give logical reasoning to justify unacceptable behavior that is motivated by unconscious, instinctual impulses. For where Taiju dishes out these physical punishments, Hakai and Yuzua immediately respond correctly. A combination of Taiju's physical capabilities and amounting pressures, the formula for abuse seems to answer the family's problems. The rejection to loss in both his mother and willingness to lose a fight creates a staunch dedication to solving everything with his fists. The role of being the eldest, a leader, a role model could be a stressful situation. These expectations and pressures can multiply tenfold when a parent passes away. In a sense, Taiju is moved up the family hierarchy when he loses his mother. For the younger siblings, they're accustomed to having two parents, and the sudden loss can spiral any young mind out of control. With losing a parent, regardless of the dynamic between mom and dad, the eldest is promoted to fill the former parent's shoes. In an article regarding family structure in children, Kay Himowitz states the common theory of boys receiving less parental input simply due to time and resources. For Taiju, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place of being promoted to a parental role, yet still requiring parenting. When his father works so much and his siblings listen, nobody can tell Taiju what's right or wrong. The simple physical prowess of Taiju correlates to Yuzua enabling his behaviors. Accepting punishments for both herself and Hakai may be to protect her younger brother, yes, but at the same time it enables Taiju's abusive behavior. As a consequence, a youth in an authoritative role, yes, I can say it correctly now, uses the quickest course of action for results. The hard part about showing someone the right way is using patience and being the bigger person. Something that the Shiba family lacks is simply wanting an end to the adversity they must go through. Yuzuna should step up to correct her big brother, not providing an alternative punishment. Taiju should take a step back and realize that the beatings only provide immediate responses. The conditioning of these beatings end with the correct, quick response, and not conditioned through repetition and lecturing. Another aspect of their family trauma is their literal reaction to trauma. Each child internalizes the loss of their mother. Yuzuna copes relatively well by going to talk to her mother's grave, not affecting anyone else. Hakai cowers and internalizes his emotions, just like his big brother. Taiju internalizes his emotions as well, and his abuse can be seen as lashing out in a form of repression or simple rationalization. A study on facing death as an adolescent shows that internalizing loss and trauma can cause risk factors for developing youth. These risk factors can eventually show up in forms of vulnerability. I don't plan to go too deep into the theories as to what Taiju feels about his mother's passing, but we can theorize all day about rationalizing the way he treats his siblings to become respectful and proper, or repressing the fact that he wants to weep and mourn his mother, so he uses a macho persona to cover up that side of him. I'm not trying to argue that he is right in any regard. That isn't what these videos are for. I'm not saying to blame others for your actions, justify attacking others, or abusing power. What I'm saying is to empathize why people become who they are. As we all grow empathy, I believe we can become a better society. Transitioning to the best member in Toman, the Twin Dragon, the greatest of all time. Okay, I'm done. Taka-chan! For real this time. Takashi Mitsuya is in the spotlight of season 2 for the dichotomy between him and Taiju. With Hakai in the middle, he yearns for guidance. Having Taiju being his literal big brother and Mitsuya his gang big brother, Mitsuya is the second division leader and out of the original members is the least aggressive. He serves as the source of positivity and is a pacifist, per the Tokyo Revengers wiki. Okay, we can say a preferred pacifist. In a sense, you can argue that he has always been the level-headed peacekeeper out of the group, with Draken being the close second, hence the Twin Dragons. Mitsuya is in a similar situation as Taiju as well, having to care for his younger siblings and having absent parents. Mitsuya's father is unknown within the story, not much is known about him, but he's absent. Being a single parent, Mitsuya's mother works so much that she's barely home, forcing him to play the lone parental figure in Luna and Mana's lives. He takes care of his little sisters, showing them how to behave in public, developing social skills, and cares for their food and takes them to parks for entertainment. Compared to Taiju, it's night and day. To make a long story short, I believe the main point of Mitsuya's arc can be summed up in one quote: "Don't hate the situation you're born into." Mitsuya opens up about one instance where he wanted to run away from his responsibilities of taking care of his sisters, and that when he came back his mother slapped him and then hugged him and apologized. The point to drive home here is the hug after the slap. The tough love and frustrated thank you given from his mother shows that Mitsuya is appreciated. He understands that situations can go awry, and at most times we couldn't control anything leading up to those situations, but we push on anyways. The resilience and stubborn love for those that we care about is what embodies Mitsuya. He doesn't use manipulation or fear on those that he loves, or anyone in that matter. He shows his passionate and stubborn love for those around him, and we finally see here the way he naturally leads, not to lead by fear. The big rule he lives by is to only use violence to protect those that you love, nothing else. When Hawkeye sees that his gang big brother is going toe-to-toe against his blood brother, he sees exactly what Mitsuya preaches, stubborn love. We see the feuding ideals in action. The moment of seeing Mitsuya fight an uphill battle against the overpowering Taiju demonstrates the conflict of Season 2. Season 2 of Tokyo Revengers dives into the Brotherhood of Tomon. Although short, it serves its purpose as well as shining the spotlight on more characters. The Brotherhood of Gangs is a whole topic within itself, and Tokyo Revengers touches on it ever so slightly, but I approve. Taiju and Mitsuya showcase two different ways to lead and show love. They show how the expectations placed onto a child can affect them, both positively and detrimentally. When one would rise up to the challenge and build a strong backbone for others to lean on, one can fall short and use any shortcuts to control. In conclusion, Taiju is a representation of the use of easy alternatives and quick advantages when being a youth, how one can use their street smarts and make it to the top. Although he is a pretty shitty big brother, we can all learn something from the leader of the 10th generation Black Dragons. Sincerely, Will.